call the meeting to order at 12:04 p.m. Roll call, I know we have Judge Martinez, Mr. Ochoa, Mr. Uribe, Mrs. Varela, and Mr. Zuniga in. Citizen comments, we'll leave the citizen comments open on the agenda up to the very end. Presentations, we'll have the first presentation by Mr. Teclo Garcia, Director of Economic Development, on the TERS number 2.
To the first meeting for the TERS number 2, which is the Coves by Killam Development. Thank you for accepting this highly paid position as a board member. but thank you, in all seriousness, thank you for serving. We really appreciate you and for taking time out of your day. And we appreciate your expertise and your input here. Thank you. We also, Mr. Chairman, let me recognize, or they can sort of self-recognize. We have two folks also have joined us online, in addition to who you see here, and I believe they're part of the Killam team, and they'll be introduced when Mr. Killam comes up, if he does come up, but I think he will. And so when I and I have Mr. Lada to bring up the one document here on the screen, this one I have in my hand. And this is part of the handout of the documents that I gave you. So this is the one that I'm going to be talking about. And the idea is to go through there you go, perfect. The idea is for me to just kind of spell this out for you, the board, and also for just for better understanding. So I'll move forward with that. This is the Coves development in northeast of Laredo, about a 1,027 acre development. To be built there, 900 multifamily units, 650 square feet of 650,000 square feet of commercial and industrial space, and lots of public infrastructure. The zone was established, and that may be a typo, but it was established in 2017 by city ordinance. The amenities in the zone are projected to be the parks and schools that are already there, hike and bike trails, a town center, and possibly a Laredo College facility. We'll get to that in a minute. This is a 30-year TERS. TERSs can be of different lengths. What the agreement was between the city and the developer to be at 30 years. The TERS board was formed by the city council. It could have been anywhere between 5 and 15 members. The city council, who as the creating entity, gets to decide the size of that board, and they chose 5 members. And then the city, just for your background knowledge, even though this zone has been in the works for some time, and I think Mr. Killam's mentioned 10 years, it really has been on the front end of our staff work in economic development the last 2 years. And so we're coming close to concluding this. There's a lot of studies involved, a lot of meetings, a lot of back and forth, and so we're very close with the formation of the board and these presentations today. The ad valorem, let's talk about the excuse me. Let's talk about the value and the funding for a minute. The way the TERS work is and how they're funded is from the new development that takes place. If there's no development out in where the TERS is zoned for, then that tax bill for that property is a minimal amount without any development. It might be categorized as ag, And so that tax revenue that goes to the city, the county, and the college, and the school districts, although the school district cannot participate in the TERS, that funding, that revenue for the taxes that are from the existing land now, undeveloped, continue and will continue to go into the general fund of the entities participating. However, with all new development, beginning with the TERS, and the revenue the new development produces, that is being split up. 40% of that new revenue will go into the TERS account, and then 60% of the revenue will go to the entities as their tax rate calls for. So that would be the city, the county, and the college. And we've worked for months with consultants, the developer, our consultants, to figure out what that would be, and that we came to that as the best possible agreement that we could come to. The city has to provide all the services to that area once the neighborhood is growing and streets are turned over as normal developments, to the city. City has to police and fire it, and all the other expenses that come with having a huge development. So the city was interested also in seeing how much funding was coming our way, because we have to pay for that development. So all those, I tell you that because that's what we've been going through the last 2 years, trying to figure out what those numbers are that we can both live with and exist with, right? The county has some expenses, but they're minimal. Same with the college. There are a few expenses involved, but they're minimal, and but the lion's share of all the maintenance belongs to the city. So that's where the revenue is coming from, the new development. The city of Laredo, again, I mentioned, will receive 60% of the ad valorem taxes from improvements, so will the other two entities. The TERS fund will receive 40% of the ad valorem taxes from improvements. The developer uses those funds for the estimated $77.4 million in public infrastructure costs that the developer has said it needs. No TERS funds will be used for any private improvements whatsoever. If the developer has, they cannot be used there. And then the ad valorem for the single-family homes was based on $260,000 valuation. That's going to be the lion's share of the revenue that's produced by this development. It's the single-family homes. There is some commercial space that will also produce them, but we had to come to an agreement on what that number was for the homes. So we think and we believe that number will be higher than 260. The city's part was being very conservative with what that number was going to be. So it's likely that the revenue will be higher than what we say it is, but we certainly don't want to overestimate what we think we're going to make. And so then, as I mentioned, the city uses the funds to pay for the cost of services for over the 30-year period. Any questions at this point? Okay, great, thank you. The TERS fund, next section, the TERS fund for the developer raises an estimated, well, they're going to use $74.5 million of the $77 needed. The developer will foot the shortfall of about $3 million. The developer also agrees to cover this, agrees to cover this deficit to meet the public infrastructure costs. The estimated city cost of services were $131 million, and general fund revenue from this agreement is about $124 million, which on paper that shows us about a $7 million deficit for the city side on a 30-year agreement. Now, if you can hold that thought for a minute. That revenue that the city's getting, again, that includes revenue from ad valorem, sales taxes, permits, franchise fees, etc. However, with that home price point being what it is, and likely being higher, there's wiggle room there. Now, also, the developer is estimating an additional $2.5 million in general fund revenue for the city and personal property taxes, and that drops the deficit to about $4.5 million. Okay, so now we've got a $4.5 million deficit over that 30 years. It's about $150,000 a year that the city would have to have. However, the way these things are structured, and the way the development is estimated to be growing, our consultants, their consultants are showing that a deficit would not begin to occur until year 17 of this deal. If everything remained the same, we went with the 260, price point, and all that, we wouldn't hit the red till year 17, all right? But there's other factors involved. So even if we were $4.5 million below, the city will receive an additional estimated non-general fund revenue for such things as the hotel occupancy tax, which we estimate about $7.7 million, and then about 12, or let's just call it 13 million in sales taxes that would be dedicated to transit. As you all know, we have a 1/4 cent that is dedicated to transit in this county. And another 12.8 million in sales taxes that's dedicated to the sports revenue, sports venue fund. So that together is about $34 million. So even with a small deficit to the general fund, we are receiving another big chunk of funds for the non-general fund revenue to the city. The city would also receive about $300,000 over this time period for administrative costs. And then on the second page, that kind of concludes what the project is in a nutshell. And again, I will gladly entertain questions. But if we go to the process and where we're at, we can back up a few months and we can say that these things have been checked off the list. The city council considered the participation rate, the amendments to the original ordinance, which we had to tweak the years because this TERS was going to begin in 2018, now it's in 2022. And then the city council also approved the preliminary financial and preliminary project plans. And that was done. The city council also named a 5-member board. As a creating entity, they would name the majority of the board members in terms of this organization. So they named 3 from the city, and then 1 from each other participating entity, the local Laredo College District and the county. If the board was bigger, the numbers will reflect that too. If you had 15, you'd probably have 4 from the county and 4 from the college, but it all works out to about the same. The city council, who again has the authority to do this as a creating entity, I'm sorry, let me back up. Laredo College board considered this project in October and approved it. The Webb County commissioners also approved the project. So those have been checked off. Right now, in the blue on this sheet, you'll see that the preliminary plans have come back to city staff and legal to review and to make final. So these plans have gone to the college, they were accepted, gone to the county and accepted, except for one item that was added. And so now that's why they have to come back to the TERS board now that it's formed and go back to the council. So if there are any changes or tweaks, they get approved, or at least considered. So then the other things that we have to do is the TERS board would consider the final financial and project plans, which we're going to do today. And then if approved, they get sent to the council for consideration. We will also, then the city council at this next meeting will consider those plans. And then then we have to come back to you to bring the final development agreement. And the final development agreement is like the final contract for this project. It has all the legal stuff in there. It has, all kind of language regarding the development itself, even to HOAs and clawbacks and all that kind of stuff. That will come back to you for consideration. But we can't get to that if we don't have the final financial and project plan, so that has to be done first. So that's what we're doing today. And then and if the TERS board approves the development plan, then it goes to the city council for approval, and then that is the end of the project process to get the TERS established and going. The city can continue to administer the TER zone. Remember, there's going to be money that's going to be produced, and so we have to handle those accounts. We can also farm that out to a consultant to do that for us if we think that it's too much work or we have the money to do that. So that's part of the reason for receiving fee. So, Mr. Chairman, that concludes my briefing on the presentation I have, which is item number A on presentations. Again, I can entertain any questions if you have any.
Questions from the committee?
I do. What kind of timeline are we looking at as of today?
You mean to finish this out?
Yes.
Well, great question, Olivia. We were just discussing that this morning, and we are going to do our level best to try to get if the board approves these plans here today, to get to the development agreement and bring it back to the board in a special meeting to try to get it to the council December 6th. Now, we don't know if we're going to be able to do that based on what the development, how much review the development agreement's going to need, and then based on your schedules as well. Because if y'all can't meet, then we can't do it, and if our legal team thinks they need more time to review, then we wouldn't be able to make those dates. It's not the end of the world to move it to January, but we understand the developers' need for expediency here, and we're trying to work with him to move it as fast as possible. So that's the best answer I can give you on that.
Thank you.
Is there anything incumbent on this board here to facilitate that timeline, or that's going to be with staff and
No, sir. Yes, there is, and that is if our legal team thinks that they can get to the review process fairly quickly, and there isn't any huge challenges inside that development agreement, it would be incumbent on the board to meet, and you would hear from me or from my assistant to say, hey, we need to meet by this date, whether it's November 30th or November 29th, and try to assemble a meeting very quickly. Is that about right?
Yes.
Right, Mr. Attorney, I think that's what we said we were going to do. Okay. Any other questions? Okay. Mr. Chairman, I guess we can move on to the next item.
The next action item is discussion and possible action to select board officers.
So this board has the option to choose a vice chairperson and/or any other position that you would like to create. You don't have to, but you can. So if you have to discuss things amongst yourself, I have no role in this. So if you want a vice chair, you all decide who the vice chair is going to be, and or a secretary or treasurer, whatever you want to do. But really, it's about the board deciding that.
I do believe a vice chair will be something essential at this time, and if I may, I would like to propose that Judge Martinez is that vice chair. If somebody wants to second that motion.
I'll second that.
Okay, everybody in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anybody against? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Will be the vice chair.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay, excellent. We'll make note of that, and we'll reflect that in the next meeting as in the minutes, and then we'll address it that way as well. Mr. Chairman, you want to take us to the next item?
Discussion and possible action on the TERS number 2 final financial and final project plan and project development agreements.
Okay, I'm going to start with an introduction on that, and then I'm going to refer some of the rest of it to this city attorney and his team, and/or the developer to chime in on it. As the economic development staff, we are satisfied with the final finance plan and the final project plan, except for two small items, which the city attorney will address. But in terms of the details and the numbers, This is something that we've been through many times already and was approved by the city council. Except for those two small changes, the numbers are the same. Again, the project costs are $77.4 million. That has not changed. There's some the economic development department, along with the city manager, we are satisfied with both the project plan and the finance plan for TERS number 2, the codes. And now let me refer you to the city attorney that can address some of the things that that need to be addressed before the board considers this item, a vote on this item.
Hi, Dean Rojas, City Attorney. So we just have a few minor revisions to the paragraph 3 in the second sentence, and we're just going to revise the next two sentences to read as follows. Our recommendation would be to accept this language. Additionally, the development will include 2 schools, recreational and green spaces, a Laredo College building inside the zone or outside of the zone if providing an area of public assembly. The TERS will also provide funds for a Webb County building inside or outside of the zone that provides an area of public assembly. The other revision would be to the project plan on page 7. It's currently entitled, the paragraph is entitled Public Infrastructure Improvements, and the recommendation is to add instead public infrastructure improvements and areas of public assembly. And then finally, on the project plan exhibit 4, we would be updated. We recommend that you update the summary fact sheet to include additional details concerning the Laredo College and Webb County buildings areas of public assembly.
So these items are important because the facilities that are in question, the Laredo College building and the county building need to be defined a certain way in order for them to receive funding from the TERS if they're outside the zone. So what we would recommend, and correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. City Attorney, is we would recommend that you approve the 2 items, the project plan and the financial plan, the final ones, subject to the amendments the City Attorney just listed. Or the developers also here who can answer questions from you if you have any.
So on the, I'm assuming both LLC and the county, the question, I guess, arises if it meets the qualification of a public assembly? Okay.
You want to answer that?
Yeah, so the statutory language is areas of public assembly.
Okay.
So the revisions are designed to address.
On the county side, we have reviewed that, and I think we've had discussions with the developer as well, and it does very much meet that criteria. I don't know about Laredo College, but I know on the county side, it does, and so, or at least, preliminarily it does, and we can give you the information that you need to make that decision or to recommend to the board here, to the committee. But of my knowledge, it does meet the criteria of a public assembly.
The reason this came up now is because we didn't see it until now.
Sure.
We saw it on Tuesday. So that's why we had to sort of get clarification. There was some first discussions with this week. So as we were preparing for this meeting, we were like, this was.
Any comments by the developer?
Yeah, I just wanted to add that, we are in agreement with the city attorney on these Cliff Kiln. adjustments that he mentioned, and with the Economic Development Director, Mr. Garcia. And so we're able to review these different things and in agreement with how to proceed with that. And these changes, reflect and enable the different jurisdictions, the county as well as the college. It gives them the flexibility to do something outside of the zone if it meets those qualifications, which we believe it should. Reflect that.
Question, Cliff. And when we say outside of the zone for these buildings, is there any specification as to, or can it just be anywhere outside?
Great question. And so it can be effectively anywhere outside of the zone, as long as it's sort of reasonably accessible. So, what may be considered not reasonably accessible, something, say, outside the county. But my understanding is that with the Laredo College situation, it could be within the zone. We're donating something within the zone. However, given that they currently do not have a permanent president at the moment, that the board there wants to defer that decision. Out of the zone, of course, they can do whatever they would like to do as long as it meets that criteria. But probably the most likely situation may be that it's on their south or downtown campus, although they could do something anywhere. In regards to the county, we are donating a site to the county off of 83, and so that's where they're planning to use that location and those funds for a place of public assembly.
Thank you. A question for Deco.
Okay, yes, ma'am.
You did say that this will not affect the financials, as they have been already approved.
That's correct. The number for the public infrastructure has to stay at the 77.4 because that's what all the entities, elected boards approved. So if the number did change, that means we'd have to take it back to every board again to approve. What was done was they looked at their project list and they saw where they could find that $1 million. Its own line item, but something else is less $1 million. And keep in mind, the developer is also, already taking about a $3 million loss to cover it himself. And so this one they don't have to cover, but they were able to find the money for the county facility.
So you mentioned that you are recommending approval. Particular concerns?
No, I meant, if I said that, I was wrong. I meant, I'm recommending approval with these amendments to
With the amendments specified by Mr. Killen?
by the amendments specified by the city attorney.
By the city attorney.
And we are in agreement with the developer on those amendments, but specifically what he said.
So you need action taken here?
Yes, sir. This would those plans would go to the city council then for ratification, and that would be finalized. That would give us the opportunity to take the next step, which is to bring before you the development agreement, which is the final agreement that this board needs to look at for the TERS number 2.
Well, Mr. Chairman, if there's no additional challenges or comments or modifications, I'd like to make a motion that we formally again, the formal acknowledgement of the city attorney, and with those amendments to the
by Judge Martinez to accept, as presented by the city attorneys, the recommendation. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Varela. Everybody in favor say aye.
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 Anybody against?
Mr. Chairman, thank you, Board. One thing before, Mr. Chairman, you hit the adjournment, this was on me. I forgot to mention earlier that we did not or online, and just wanted to acknowledge that publicly.
No problem. We left it open until the end of the meeting, so we'll close.
Before you adjourn, I just moving forward with this project, I think that if, going forward with these economic development tools, and in light so far from the Killam's, we're going to see a very, very nice development come out of this. I know it's been a long time, but I think it's going to benefit our city. Way. So
Yes, ma'am.
congratulations and thank you.
Yes, ma'am. And let me just add very quickly to your comment is that something we didn't get into today, but I'll just mention it very quickly in 30 seconds, is that this development is needs in terms of homes. We need homes right now. We need middle and higher end homes as well. As we go forward and we recruit businesses or try to retain those to stay and expand, there are a lot of young couples here in homes in Laredo. That's the lowest it's been in many years, and so that's very important for us. This development will also create hundreds of construction jobs over the next decade, and it's also with the commercial development estimated to create about 2,000. This is going to be a big development. I mean, there's other things that come with it. So we're very proud to work with the developer on this.
I know that Mr. Kelly mentioned that it was, or you mentioned that it was 10 years, more or less in the making, at least the 7 years that I've been with the county. It's been at the forefront with us for a long time. For really thinking outside the box and providing these type of development projects.
Yes, sir.
It's a good problem to have. I mean, really, the 1 month of inventory that we do have, Laredo's growing. Again, for providing these tools out there, and congratulations. Front.
Yes, sir.
And so anyways, just, like Ms. Varela said, thanks for being patient. Destination,
We have one more bit of patience or maybe expediency, and that's getting the final development agreement done. So we'll come back to you, and I'll try to keep you briefed on it if we can get through that and get you together again for another meeting. But we'll hear from our legal folks here to see when that would be. And that would be the last item besides adjournment, Mr. Chairman, unless y'all had something else to bring up.
Any other comments or questions by the board? Any other comments, questions by the people present? If not, yes, sir.
I just want to also kind of just say, thank you to all of you for your support and consideration, and also to acknowledge our partners with the the city and Laredo College and the county and working with each of their teams. It's been great, and we're excited to move this project forward. And we're very grateful, we're humbled, and we're ready to get to work. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This is Laredo's second TERS. San Antonio has about 29 TERSs. Houston, about 22% of its entire land are TERSs. So we're and they take a lot of time to figure out. So, but thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you,
No, sir.
board.
Thank you for your work, Michael.
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
If no more questions or comments, I will make a motion to adjourn if we can have a second.
Second.
Okay, everyone in favor to adjourn?
Aye.
Aye.
Nobody against? Motion carries, meeting adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.